Hey, Maddie, we have taken a week off. The feedback was really strong. Never do it again, I've been told. So great to see you after a very long fortnight.
I've risen from the ashes, the deep, dark depths of a strategy week. I hope that I've come out stronger at the other side. But it's good to be back. Sorry to the people who were yearning for an episode. I'm surprised we didn't go viral as a result of skipping an episode with angry people on the internet. Thanks for holding back to all our followers, but it's good to be back. Good to see you, Scotty.
Absolutely. And the fresh haircut. So you've taken a week off to look after the salad on top. It's looking very good, very sharp.
Yeah, strategy week. Air quotes.
Very good. And sometimes we get messed up with timing on this show and we get the world's biggest news that rocks up about 5 minutes after we're done. But my good friends at Apple, who I've said nothing bad about in the past 12 months, they've had their big product launch night, and just want to say, never doubted them. I've been talking them up for the last 6 months, and it looks to actually gone pretty well. They've got brand new set of iPhones. They've got AirPods that are translating on the spot, and it looks like they've sort of said, look, AI, but we're still the best product company in the world.
Yeah. I love that they've leaned into some of the things like the health tracking. So the fact you can now get heart rate through your AirPods. I think you can do blood pressure through the watch. They've given us better battery on the iPhone 17. That is like just core, better screen. So like you said, they're leaning into the product lens. And I mean, maybe the live translation is their first foray into some of the AI stuff. Whether or not we're going to rule them out of that race of, like you mentioned recently with Gemini and their Pixels going for the Google's product, going full into the AI ecosystem. How is that going to play out? Is the operating system going to keep up with something like Androids and what Google's doing? Or are they going to just remain the product company and rely on all of the apps to do the AI for them? I still am not super bullish. I think that if they're not in the AI race, their time might expire. But I think I'd agree that I was happy with this product launch, excited to go and buy all their new products and get an iPhone 17, AirPods 3 and their Apple Watch. So they've done well.
Yeah, it's obviously publicly here. I jumped into the MacBook world with I got the juiced up MacBook Air, which wasn't even that expensive, but it had the M4 chip in it, and it's been pretty amazing. Like, ever since I've got it, my MacBook snobbery has gone through the roof. So the rest of the company is on these Microsoft PCs, and watching their stupid little screens load every time they basically move their mouse, I'm thinking, why am I sitting in this meeting? So, because everything just works on a Mac. So I think everyone's known for a while that the Mac series is a great product. But I think this iPhone Air is starting to appeal to me. And you and I have also discussed the watch. This new Ultra watch, which has seriously long battery life and sleep metrics and stuff, could kill the Oura Ring. And I've seen some people, how you and I were saying, if you want the Rolly and you want the metrics, I've seen some people rolling around Melbourne with a bit of a rose gold band and the iPhone on top. So maybe there's the dressy Apple Watch, but I don't know. I think they've sort of seemed to have nailed actually improving year on year with these products. And my longer term bet from 3 months ago that I think they'll buy Perplexity, which gives them browser agents and AI. I think that's potentially, that's still my bet.
Yeah. I do, because it's hard to improve on the iPhone or the phone. Like I feel like we're starting to get to the peak form of a phone. Like, what else can you do with it other than getting rid of it? And I don't think we're going to get rid of phones, because it's not like going to move fully to just voice-based communication. Obviously Elon has said a few things about there will no longer be an operating system. It will just be AI translating to pixels in real time. And as we say, don't bet against Elon. So maybe that will happen. But the phone is here to stay. We still want to watch things on it. We still want visual interfaces. And so to keep improving on the phone each year is actually quite hard. And I like what they've lent into. Things like battery life and making the screen not shatterable. All of these things are actually important. Adding more megapixels to the camera. Basic stuff like being able to film in selfie mode and forwards at the same time. Like people want to do that. They use other apps to do that. And, you know, I as I mentioned, I don't want to wear extra things. If I've already got a watch on me, I want that to be my AI voice transcription. I've got my AirPods so I can listen to things to the gym. Why can't that be my sensor? Why can't that do my AI live translation for me? And they're leaning into that, which is great. So I think it's a good announcement and just not super bullish on the AI side.
Fair enough. And I mean, some of the biggest news from this week was the big Trump dinner where all the rock stars, all the tech rock stars were there. Sergey, Tim Cook, Satya, Bill Gates, Mark. And I actually thought some of the table setting and who was closest was interesting. You know, that's what I was watching for, like who's super close. And right next to Donald was the Zuck. But more importantly, 4 seats down was not Jan LeCun. It was Wangy. Wangy is on the table. He got a seat. The most 10 powerful people on the planet. Alexander Wang was just mucking around in his little lab a year ago. He's leapfrog Mark, and there's a fantastic meme of Trump and Zuck laughing and him saying, yeah, then I made Jan LeCun report to the scale guy and then pissing themselves. So it's official. Wangy is in charge.
The best thing to come out of this dinner was the memes. There were some really good ones. I saw one of Bill Gates getting overdubbed. I actually saw one that I don't know if it's real or not, because you never know these days, but it's of Zuck, and he says how much he's going to be investing in the American economy, and he looks a little bit deer in headlights, and then he says something. He goes, I think it's like 600 billion or something.
How much are you spending, would you say, over the next few years?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think it's probably going to be something like, I don't know, at least $600 billion through 28 in the U.S. Yeah.
It's a lot.
No, it's significant.
That's a lot. Thank you, Mark. It's great to have you.
Sorry, I wasn't ready to do a thing for announcement.
He said I wasn't sure what number you wanted to go with.
Sorry, I didn't know what you wanted me to say there, so I just said 600.
I think that was real. But the funny thing with Zuck is like he wouldn't have been expecting that seat next to Donald because he's just socially completely awkward. He said it on every podcast ever. He's like, I'm the most unlikable guy of all time. I just want to sit in a corner and build products. And he sat next to Donald Trump. Oh, the poor guy. He would have been just so nervous. But you know, and last week I think we did our top 5 most influential people. I had Wangy at 5, I think, and he's 5th sitting next to Donald. So validation for the punt there. Very funny. Although on Yarn Watch he still has a job, and I'm running low on time. So
what are we at? Are we almost expired on the 35?
I think we'd be very close to 35. So if you're out there, Zuck, today not doing anything, bring him in and release into the wild, release into MIT or something.
Well, you know what, Scotty? I saw something from quite a respectable person. I'll have to find the link saying that maybe Jan is right. Maybe Jan is right about LLMs and that they do have an expiry, and here is what you should be working on instead. Now, I don't want to go putting on my tinfoil hat, and I am still on the side of lettuce here. I'm on the lettuce winning this one, but it's, who knows? It would be a great comeback if we all figured out in a month's time that Jan was right and we need to pivot away from LLMs and onto something else. And maybe he'll go join OpenAI or somewhere else.
No, I'm not happening it. So he said, yes, spatial intelligence is important. LLMs have, you know, an end sort of thing that they're going to solve. At the moment, they're doing a pretty good job, though. But you can't now just pivot to say, oh, I meant spatial intelligence is important. And then he's still saying AGI is 10 years away. Anyway, I don't know. that's enough yarn for today. More importantly, all the VCs have returned from their summer holidays in the US, and Anthropic have tripled their value from 60 bill to 180 bill in the last 6 months, which is hopefully giving me and you some real shame about valuations. So they've jumped 120 billion in 6 months, and there's a fantastic meme of the VCs returning from the summer vacation to invest in the same 3 companies. Like, are we in, as Jan might call it, an LLM bubble here?
Yeah. And it is funny because the whole concept of VC is meant to be, placing bets on the moonshot companies that are coming out of nowhere, placing the early bets. So that's why VC was created, and that's why VC can get the valuations it does. And so to see more and more money just funneling into these companies, I think it's somewhat an output of fund size. And there's so many large funds out there that admittedly they're not just VCs. They're like private equity funds and hedge funds and growth funds. That there's so much capital out there that's gone into this industry that is now saying, why don't we just go on the safer bets? But potentially it's actually not the safe bet after all, because like you said, this could all be a big bubble. And are we about to see a whole lot of capital just get torched? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, it's sort of like they become like the new BlackRock, like, A16Z and all these things, if they're all just going off of the big dogs. I mean, if you want to know where the bubbles are and where the bubbles aren't, you've just got to tune into Scotty's stocks. And we haven't had it as an official thing because I believe it's illegal to give financial advice. But here we go.
No, wait, what you meant to say is this isn't financial advice, and that's introducing Scotty's stocks.
Okay, it sounds like that's something another thing that would say. Scotty's stocks. So we're going to retrospectively go through some here. So a few weeks ago, I said, look, Google's just, if you look at the metrics, they're undervalued, they're dominating. 3 days later, the Scotty stock bounce, 16%. This is a company that's had a monopoly for 20 years. Top 3 company in the world gets a 16% bounce. Unbelievable. You never would have heard of it. Nvidia early in the year, I was saying, although they're still high valuation, they've got a monopoly. All the wealth returns to Nvidia. So all the, Anthropic's still losing money. OpenAI's losing money. Nvidia's 80% of the money in AI is being, profits have actually gone to Nvidia so far. They've still been booming all year. And, now that's retrospectively just stating the obvious. Those things have happened. Now, moving forward, this is not financial advice. However, Scotty's biggest 3 potential stocks moving forward. My friends at UniTree are releasing an IPO. They're coming, $7 billion valuation. These are people that can pump out dogs that flip for $5,000, humans that can flip for $12,000. That is capitalism as its finest. So I just think UniTree IPO, have a watch for that one. My other 2 that I'm going with are Aussie Minerals. So the Australian dollar is absolutely house, and it's so expensive to invest in American stocks. But for Nvidia to make these billions of chips, they need copper and a bunch of stuff that we have in Australia. So check out Aussie Minerals. And my last one, don't mean to bore you with all this great financial advice, is land. I'm just thinking, what's the one thing that AI and robots can't replace? And it's land. So maybe get yourself a patch of dirt somewhere as well. What do you reckon? Have I gone too far there?
No, not at all. I think it's sound advice. I'm currently shifting my strategy. I actually do agree with it all. The land one, I agree that AI only accelerates that. Even in in building data centers, for example, we're going to need more land to do that. We're going to need more land for energy. So I agree with that. The one that I do like, and I've just put something into Grok to get me a result. It's taking its time doing its thinking, but I've actually asked what the val is going to be of the UniTree IPO. Was it 7 billion? Yeah. So 7 billion. I wonder where that ranks it globally at 7 billion, because like you say, a robotics company that's been around for a while, that's moving at breakneck speed, that can ship dogs that can backflip. Like, everyone's talking about the humanoid robot revolution and how big that market cap is be. Surely 7 billion is a good pick compared to an Anthropic at, what's it, 120 billion? So I think that is your best pick out of the lot.
And I mean, you think about Figure, who we love Figure. We're going to talk about them later, but they're at 40 bill without a product. UniTree have proven solve the manufacturing problem. Like, I saw a quote from Elon during the week saying, so much emphasis is put on design, but solving for manufacturing and production is 1,000 times more important. Like, that's execution. Design is just design, and strategy and ideas are easy, but actually solving the manufacturing problem, and China's, great there, and UniTree's doing it. They're shipping these things for 12 grand. I mean, that's people aren't, if robotics to work, people can't spend 100 grand on them. They're going to have to be able to spend 5 grand on them, 10 grand on them. So, yeah, no, big fans.
I think in that same video, Elon's talking about the Raptor engine, and they ask, is that the same for the Raptor? And he said, or maybe it's a different video, but he said around the Raptor, the complicated thing they're doing there is not the actual design of it. It's making sure the Raptor can be produced at less than $1,000 per X amount of thrust. So he said what the Russians built 30 years ago, it was pretty innovative. We haven't innovated that much on top of it. We've obviously done some things where the innovation is how do we get the costs down here? And a lot of that is in the manufacturing. So totally what does this say about all of the Chinese companies that already have a lot of this sorted? They've been figuring this out for 30 years. So I think it's a really interesting insight.
Yeah. It sort of leads me to my longer term thinking that all the VC wealth's gone into OpenAI and Anthropic, and that's the layer that I almost don't believe in, because I feel like it's a rep. I understand they have distribution and stuff, but people aren't willing to pay more than $20, and they're spending all their time giving free, and they're losing money while doing it. So it's all this customer loss acquisition. So eventually you monetize it, you charge people $40, and we talked about being in the Goldilocks zone of AI at the moment, because we're getting things where it's been subsidized. But anyway, anyway, that's my opinion now. Now, how do I know all that, Matt? How do I know? How have I had this such clarity of thought? It's because I've taken 100 grams of creatine. Which I absolutely haven't. But if anyone is following the trend online at the moment, the amount of creatine you're meant to take and why you're meant to take it has just been upping and upping and upping. And it's like, take 5 grams a day for health. And then it's like, take 10 grams a day for your brain. And then the beautiful post by Jamie Varnow on X saying, I took 100 grams of creatine and now I'm doing LL inference in my head. It's like peak creatine.
So good. Yeah, it's very on topic with what's going on. Inference is the new oil. But I, as you know, Scotty, I'm a bit of a boomer when it comes to being online. I don't spend a lot of time on Instagram or TikTok. I have a very curated X feed. So I was like, where does this meme come from? So that's where Grok is so good for
isn't it?
What is the pop culture around this meme? And so Boomer Me puts that in. And apparently this actually, so I don't know if you knew this, but this was from a crypto pump and dump scheme. That's why it became so popular. Did you know that?
No.
So on the Solana cryptocurrency, or the Solana chain, there was a meme coin that was built on that called $creatine. That's like the ticker on it. And then people just started pumping it up, and listen to some of the things that they described it of. So first of all, Grok is saying, it's describing it. So memes have been around for a long time in gym communities. Think about jokes like creatine cretins, for example, or mums freaking out about drugs. And anyway, as we go down, so some of the things that got it popular were, it's marketed as gains in your wallet, or pump your portfolio like your muscles. And
pump your portfolio.
So, but isn't this wild that you can go out there, you can create this coin like for free. You can put some memes out there, you have it like 10x in value. People are actually buying it with real money. And then you just pull the rug out, as they would say, dumping it all and make a bag. Like, it's the world we live in is wild. This was like peak 2021 where people were doing this, but it hasn't gone away. If you knew about how to influence this sort of meme culture online, it sounds like a pretty good business model to me.
Yeah, I'm doing someone like the Cluely guys, like Cluely Coin or something. They could just do something, make it viral and pump and dump and get out.
Totally.
Well, more of a real business strategy is one I've been talking a little bit about publicly, but more privately, is with our R&D business, Elysium, about building autonomous homes. And I don't know if you've seen the Tesla master plan that's come out. Now, Tesla's got some huge announcements this week, which we're going to go through. But if you think about it, they're building data centers. They've got huge scale industrial batteries, which we'll talk about today as well. They've got manufacturing, cars, robo-taxis, charging, trucking, solar, home charging, home. And we've got this great graphic here that they've produced as their next 10-year master plan. They've also got Optimus just working in the home. Is there anything you can see there that they haven't labeled in this photo?
I don't know, Scotty. I'm something's on the tip of my tongue. I think it's maybe to do with the residential housing industry.
The one thing they can't figure out because it's too complex for Elon's small brain is the home. Lucky Scotty is working on it in the background. And what do we all think that means? Massive exit potential. So in my investor decks, I am going to share the Tesla master plan. And on their little home, I'm just going to write Elysium and put a picture of me like this.
Well, you need to put, there needs to be an update, Scotty. You did have massive exit potential until you just called Elon a pea brain. So
he does appreciate gags. Just a gag, Elon.
True.
Future
just a
exit
gag.
partner.
Yeah. True. Hopefully he sees it that way and doesn't take it as a chip on the shoulder and is out to get Scotty.
I was just, the problem is when you're trying to like do something with a product now, your ultimate fear is some monster company just flattening you. So this like game, when I was reading Tesla master plan, I was almost like, please don't be doing it. Like the last thing I need is a Tesla home. It's like, we're gone.
So how would you feel like emotionally if Jensen came out and said he was getting into the home? What would that do to you?
I think what I'd do is just sell up, buy the stock and ask for a job. Like, I think that's like if Jensen comes for you, that's the only play. There's one of one play. Sell, ask for a job.
Yeah, you surrender. Surrender early too.
Try and get in on that employee share scheme. That's still on my cards as potential long-term strategy is the NVIDIA employee share scheme. All right, we better get into the serious stuff because we've taken a week off. The people want to know what the AI news is, and I think one of the real cool things that we followed this year was the Neuralink, Neuralink's presentation on where the brain-computer interface is heading, the post-device world, and new player out of MIT and then San Fran, I believe, with a brand called Alter Ego. And they're talking about, telepathic wearables, really cool sort of product release. The main thing I noticed was, it looks like a bit of a behind the ear piece. So not a plug into the brain and outside. And one of the things that they made note of is like, you basically can talk to people without talking. But it's not reading your thoughts. It's reading the signal on the way to an oral expression, which is kind of really interesting.
It is. I really like it because the Neuralink feels so dystopian, going direct to the source. Like that is the last thing that you have as a human that cannot be detected. Everything else, you're on camera everywhere. People are listening to your calls. Mark Zuckerberg's decrypting your WhatsApp messages. The government's listening to everything. But the thing that they can't do at the moment, and the only thing that you have left, is the thoughts in your brain. So as soon as you get a Neuralink, you're opening that up. Now, I like this. Like you said, the alter ego who've come out of MIT, they rely on the bioelectric signals that are coming from the brain, and it's not invasive as well. So I don't know exactly where it sits. Maybe it picks it up just around your ears or on your neck or something on the back of your head. And when it comes to the usefulness of this, they've talked a bit about the translation, the talking part. I actually think the best part is the supplemental memory. So being able to just have that shower thought or be thinking something that you need to do later and being able to just note that down into a note, or have, when you're you're in a conversation one-on-one with someone, you think about something and you don't want to go and type the notes, being able to put that down. I think that's a really cool use case. The idea of this telepathic communication without speaking, doesn't seem as useful to me, and like takes a bit of the human element of what having a conversation is all about away from it. Yeah, they've got the live translation stuff, but we've seen from other products that you can do that through other means. So I think that the best part about this is the technological marvel of picking up the signals rather than going directly into the brain. You don't need to go and get surgery. I'd much prefer wear a bit of a device, and I'm sure it will get smaller. It'll probably sit as glasses soon. Who knows? Maybe Apple will buy them and you can pick it up from your ears through your AirPods. But I think that's the really cool part about this tech.
Ooh. EarPods, the AirPods that being the next feature, that could be a big one. No, completely agree. It's really exciting. The thought of doing a podcast of me and you just staring at each other awkwardly and our alter ego just making gags is probably not the thing. But I've spoken to you about the fact that I'm trying to eliminate my hands from the workplace. And then sort of run my workplace by voice. I think the voice UI is the future for everything, but this is now going a step further and almost eliminating the voice. Yeah. So
and I must say, I'm the same.
interesting.
Like I want to do that more. Like I've got an app that I think I've done in a tool of the week where I just press a button, I talk to the computer, it uses an LLM, and it writes twice as fast as I could type. But I work in an open plan office. I don't have an office. We all sit out with the team. And so a lot of the things I do need to be private, and that's where I can't use voice. I go back to typing because I don't want to go jump into a meeting room. So maybe this is a really cool technology there where you can be sort of sitting there at your computer looking at something, and then you're actually writing an email with your brain. Like that's actually pretty cool.
I much prefer the Darth Vader type. Disciplining someone without talking across. Like, imagine if you're just sitting there at your computer and like 2 rows back of computers, there's some young grad who's just like putting his head down because you're disciplining them without saying anything across the office.
Well,
like, what the hell are you doing over there?
You could really imagine this going wrong as well, couldn't you? Like, accidentally thinking you're on versus not, and then having the thought like there's definitely going to be some edge cases on this.
Yeah. Like when you're just thinking, that's the dumbest thing in the middle of a meeting.
Was that on speaker? Oh, sorry.
Anyway, so we'll keep an eye on them. Alter Ego sounds like a really cool business. Now, another one when we talk about user interfaces is Pickle AI, new product, which is a desktop AI with no UI. So it's just there appearing. And I was hoping maybe you could go deeper because it's a bit over the top of my head. So like a desktop AI that's basically watching everything you do and just prompt free suggesting assistance.
Yeah. It's basically like Microsoft Clippy on steroids that's actually useful. Like it's Clippy sitting there and it's just saying, would you like me to help out with this? And it is taking in all of your screen, and it's running this through its LLM the whole time, and it's learning what you typically would do. Now, I I don't know how much control it has over the browser. Can it actually go and start automating tasks for you? I don't know. Or is it just going to help you complete them and give you advice on things? I need to get into the details of what it's going to do there. The no UI part of it is basically just saying remember when Apple released the liquid glass interface, where it's kind of like, they're trying to say you've got layers and some of them are translucent. You can sort of see. That's kind of what it's like. It's like this extra thing that pops up in a random spot around your screen, and it's kind of see-through, and it's I would say it's not no UI. It's non-intrusive UI. And the cool part about it is the proactive nature. You're not having to go, okay, I've just seen something. I'm going to go paste this into Grok and ask it a question, or it's hopefully going to learn what you need to know. And when you're when you're doing your physics class, Scotty, it goes, I know you didn't know this algebraic formula last time. I've remembered that, and I'm going to give you some tips. So I think that's really cool. I did go to sign up to it. And it was one of those stupid forms that like asks you questions about it. Like had a section, what is the coolest thing you've built? I was like, off, like I just want to sign up to your product. And so I didn't actually get on the wait list, even though I want to use it.
Bad friction. Yeah, what they need to do, because they probably skipped, every founder now is a dropout from Stanford, but there's a really good course at Stanford that you can take called like good and bad friction. So it's like good friction with customers is when there's opportunities to have touch points that surprise and delight. Bad friction is anything that gets in the way of acquiring a customer or just letting someone access your product or get involved. So that sounds like a little bit of bad friction there.
Oh yeah.
And it's definitely no desktop AI, no UI, and no way to join. That could be the final.
Admittedly, it was literally one field, but I'm like, I know what you're doing here. You're trying to like, what they're trying to do with this is they're trying to find people with big X followings that have worked on some interesting thing, and they're trying to use that and put them on. Anyway, that kind of pissed me off, and I didn't sign up to it, but maybe I'll go crawling back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, no, if they can't have you, mate, the other thing is you can do is just create like a hot avatar or something and get like 10,000 followers on X, and then have that be the way you access all of these.
That's the distribution.
Yeah, what is it? The hinge model. Like you get her to sign up to all the apps for you, so you get in onto the wait list.
Exactly. We don't have enough distribution to use all of these sexy AI products.
And something a bit more hardware based. And we did speak about Tesla already, but some big announcements from Elon companies. He made an effort to not go to that dinner. I think last time he was at the White House, he got punched in the face. So I think he made an effort not to go. He's probably doing some due diligence on Elysium at the moment, but he's released what they've calling the Tesla Mega Block, which is, an enormous battery pack that is going to be critical to, I think, the energy problem with data centers. And they did mention this in the Tesla master plan as well, but this paired with another announcement we're going to speak about later. This is starting to get, like, in terms of Tesla, when you go cars, robo-taxis, that gets you, because car ownership is going to be a question, right? So if you're going to own a car, not owning a Tesla or another autonomous vehicle is going to seem silly. But then robo-taxis don't own a car ever. And like I saw someone did a $2 trip across Austin that would be $20 in an Uber or something. And then data centers, and now energy for data centers. Like, this is a powerhouse move.
Yeah. Look, Elon's laid this out since the start, right? He's always had, he's laid out what he's going to do with each of his businesses and how they're going to support each other. And the Tesla master plan is, I think, a lot of that coming to life and people realizing how real he is about it. And the scary thing is there's not many things that he's said that he hasn't done. And so when I look at this mega block, what it reminds me of is the manufacturing prowess that we talked about before. It just shows that if you have the manufacturing prowess to put these together and actually distribute them out, why the construction cost apparently is 40% lower. It's 23% faster to install. Imagine what that does to when you're trying to stand up a data center, or you're building a remote community, or you're working on a new oil rig and you need power to it. Like, they just drop these power blocks out there. It's like a Lego brick. It just goes out there, a brick to charge your phone, drop it in, plug it in, and you're ready to go. So he is basically creating a global ecosystem, isn't he, as part of this master plan?
Yeah, it leads me to think, like, even for myself, like, with these autonomous homes that we want to get into, I'm thinking we're concentrating in the $20 million plus market, like, in terms of getting into a home, right? But when you start thinking about building out a new community and the things that we've got with the housing crisis and stuff, what's stopping you getting a big piece of dirt in Australia or Texas that's currently cheap? As long as you can get running water there, you can now 3D print, create energy with solar, store energy. And what's stopping you building a new community?
Yeah. Put a little data center there. You've got your energy sorted. Yeah. You could have,
it's like sort of like
have a
the
few
new gated
robo-taxis. Yeah. Have some robo-taxis driving people around. You can literally stand up a community. And is all of this work that he's doing to prove that you can do that, and therefore you can just go and do the same thing on Mars? Is that what it's all leading to?
I think so. And if you can do it on Mars, you can do it in Western Melbourne and you can do it in Southern Austin. So I think it's a really interesting use case for developers. If I was a developer, I would be having a look at some cheap dirt and thinking about all the tech and starting from scratch. So re-architecture, looking at the architecture of a community and realizing, with all this new tech, what does a community look like, or what can it look like when you get to start from scratch? Because you can't do it in an existing metropolitan area. That's too much. Real estate's gone, traffic, all that. But what does it look like? What do the roads look like when it's robo-taxis? What do homes look like if you don't need garages? We've been looking at homes, like we're looking at sort of the architecture of a luxury home and going, well, why do you need a butler's pantry? And why should a laundry be in a nice area? Shouldn't you just have a core where all the robots and all the housework is done, because it's not going to be done by someone in the home anymore? And therefore, what can you then use with those spaces? So I think we're about to see a massive shift in planning and architecture when you start from scratch, knowing the new tech.
Yeah. Imagine this. So we've got a housing shortage, as to a lot of countries. Imagine this. Tesla sets up a gigafactory in the middle of nowhere in Australia, very central. In the gigafactory, they start producing trucks, and they start producing batteries, and they start producing Optimus robots. If you had that, all of a sudden, you can send a legion of these robots out. You've got the trucks taking the materials out, and you can start to build cities autonomously. You've got these autonomous cities built for a fraction of the cost. Because when we talk about the housing shortage, and I've been to 1,000 master builders events, I'm sure you've been to a couple. Maybe you don't go to them anymore. Like, they're always just talking about these, we can't build enough houses. There's not enough labor. They're, confused over whether we should use cross-laminated timber or modular houses. And it's like, it's not going anywhere. There needs to be a new way of thinking about how we're going to build these communities.
They're picking at the edges when it's, they're picking at the leaves, but it's a whole new tree. It's being skipped. We're skipping a whole generation of technology now, when all of your thoughts around labor need to dissipate. I think, we're jumping around a bit, but like the idea, the most powerful thing about the humanoid robot and about Optimus is going to be that they can all be interconnected. So the more you have, they can still work on the same mission. Do you know what I mean? You could, and if you acquire 20 of them, you deploy 20, you deploy 100, it's almost like a compounding effect. It's like on site, we used to say, like, two carpenters, the difference between 1 and 2 carpenters is actually like the difference between 1 and 3. Like, the second person, you now are the equivalent of 3 single people just when you start working together. And they think about that with the robots and this sort of legion of robots and when they're all interconnected, what they could do. And that's almost the power of the human. The power of the human is when we work together. So I think we're going to see that compounding effect with autonomous robots and drones and things like that.
Tell you what image I have in my mind. Have you seen the videos of the Amish people who build the whole houses together, and then they all pick them up together and move them? Imagine seeing like 1,000 Optimuses just like picking up a city and just moving it.
I could actually see Elon putting like beards on them as well to replicate and hats to replicate the art. It's a great example. I'm glad we went all the way future. We're going back to the future with tech, which is one of the things we're saying at Elysium. But yeah, but we've gone from into the future back to Amish, and that's where the Amish had it nailed. So
they have it.
Nice full stop on that one. I know that you feel like you have to politically now be against China, even though you have very close family ties. But
I'm Sweden. No, I'm Sweden here.
Okay, you're back because you were pissed off about the Model Y. You were nervous about your visa app. So now that you've got a stronghold in Austin, you're ready to come back to Switzerland again and be a friend of both, because we need to celebrate something.
Well, I do have a trip to China planned, so I need to make sure I get in there as well. So I'm balancing, I'm balancing both. You know, you don't need a visa to get into China anymore, less than 30 days, which is good. But I'm definitely, sorry, not Sweden, I'm Switzerland here, playing in between them. Don't want to jeopardize any visas. I love everyone, especially China and especially the US. I just want to see innovation win.
Okay, well, if you're, I'm going to outdo you on China Love here. If anyone wants to check it out, the W Build Instagram has a 5-minute China video of me celebrating the country, not asking for any money from the government there. But if that is a very good tourism video, it's the equivalent of, who was that Australian chick that said like, where the bloody hell are you? I forget who it was. It was the Australian tourism video. But anyway, so look, we're loving China here. And one of the things that they've done here is they have created a 1,000 kilometer an hour, which is the speed of planes, magnetic levitation train. And if we're talking about buying land and starting a new community, the idea of 1,000 kilometer an hour train sort of makes that you could have that community anywhere. Like we can't even get 180 kilometer an hour train built in Australia. Like, what is this? How can a train go 1,000 kilometers an hour? Like, do you understand the tech here?
Yeah. So remember how we talked about the Hyperloop? That Elon was sponsoring the universities. It's the same technology that I think it only gets to 1,000 kilometers per hour, only 1,000 kilometers per hour, when it's in the vacuum tube. So they get rid of all the air and you reduce the friction. And, there's a lot of people saying on the X thread, well, why do you need such a aerodynamic nose if you've got no air in there? Well, idiots, it's not fully it's not zero air in there. There's still a bit, so they've got to maximize everything to get to their 1,000 kilometers an hour, and it also looks cool. So that's how you do it, though. And also you take it off the ground, so you've got no contact with the rails. It's magnetically levitated. So really cool technology. Did you see how far have they tested it? Do you know how long the tube is?
No, but I mean, I spent 4 days on the bullet trains that were going 300 kilometers an hour. And even that was such a hack city to city. It was just, 15 minutes Hong Kong to Shenzhen, 30 minutes Shenzhen to Guangzhou. It just activates all these areas. Like, imagine in Melbourne, and not to be too Australian centric, but imagine just a 30-minute trip down to Geelong or Portsea and, or 10 minutes, 15 minutes to like Bendigo, and like these little regional towns could pop up and be like mini CBDs, 20 minutes Gold Coast to Brisbane, 20 minutes Gold Coast to Byron. Like, it just, because the thing with an airplane is when you go on a 1 hour airplane trip, and there's a lot of them in the US, like New York to Boston, 30 minutes is taking off and doing a stupid loop and finding somewhere to land. So even at 500 kilometers an hour, it's still quicker than a plane. Or 300 kilometers
quicker
now,
than
still
a
quicker than a
plane.
plane.
Yeah. And just the whole airport thing is BS as well. You got to go through security and there's lines. And in America, it's really bad. You don't know what you're going to get. Like at Austin Airport, you could walk straight through, or you could have a 2-hour line of security. So you've got to get to the airport 3 hours early if you want to be sure you're not going to miss your domestic flight. And you don't get that with trains. And what I love about the trains as well, one, you're at the level you can, if you're going between a couple of cities, you can actually take in the scenery too, rather than just looking at clouds. You can get up and walk around. You've got a bit more space. So if we can make these things go faster than planes, 100%, that's a way better mode of travel.
I think there's actually a conspiracy tinfoil hat here. I reckon it's big airlines and airports get involved in government and stop these kind of projects. Like Melbourne still doesn't have an airport rail link because the Melbourne airport parking is the most profitable per square meter fucking business in the world, basically.
Wow.
And I just think in the US, like California can't get a high-speed rail together for the last 20 years. They spent billions and haven't got any rail. Whereas China, they don't have a big air industry. They're train travelers. And you just get around this enormous country with 1 billion people. Takes you 30 minutes to get from city to city. It's so much smarter. It's another thing around rethinking the architecture when you don't have special interests and all this old thinking in place.
Well, Scotty, I plan to do absolutely zero DD on that theory, and I am now a believer. I'm going to go spurting that theory out, and that is, Can I just say that's my number one? That is my number one hope for this pod. Is for people to come out of it and re-parrot the that I make up and do not fact check me. I do not want to be fact checked ever. I want just straight unfiltered into the next unfiltered brain. But no, anyway, I think there's some truth to that. So, anyway, well done to the Chinese again. Big fans of what they're doing. Mate, let's waste no more time. Get into the robot rundown. It's been another huge fortnight. This fortnight, and the fanboy Brett Adcock, we've given him some shit because he's got a $50 billion valve and hasn't produced anything. But what he's done, and what I wanted to bring it up this week, is it was sort of like 12 months to be able to like fold one towel. But then what we always see with these companies is sort of on the J curve, velocity of product. He's now gone washing dishes, folding towels, washing clothes, sorting packages. And it seems like, what he's saying, what they're doing is they took a lot of time to build out the model to be able to solve for general robotics. And now that they can just plug in the task and update the task really quickly. And once it's learnt it once, it's learnt it forever. But I'm talking to people at the moment about robots in the home, because this is what I do for a living, and they look at me like I'm an absolute psychopath. Like, what are you talking about? And if you were just watching this Figure AI thing, and this is going to be, they're really product people, it's coming and it's moving really quick, and they're starting to solve more than one task. Yeah. I think this is probably, out of all of our things that we're trying to talk about here, of where there might be heads in the sand, this would have to be the biggest one. We talk about AI a lot, and I think people kind of understand that that's coming, but humanoid robots, or robots doing a lot of blue-collar labor, it's on its way. And we've talked about the fact that AI is the one that the white-collar workforce needs to be leveraging, or they'll get ousted. When it comes to physical labor, this is what's going to be the replacement, and how does that fit in with the current economy? And yeah, you're right. I think this is the head in the sand moment that I think the majority of the population has, thinking that this is so sci-fi. This is only things you'd see in a sci-fi movie. That's just not true anymore. It's so close.
Yeah, it's sort of like online dating. Like if you had told
Here we
our
go.
parents.
Where's this going?
I can't help myself. But like if you had told our parents 80% of new relationships are going to be formed online, not going out to the pub, they would have said, bull, like, no way. Who are you going to meet that creep on the internet? Who that creepy guy or creepy? How do you even know if they're real? And And I think it's this moment, I don't know this, it's like that crossing the chasm moment or whatever, but I'm speaking to people that are still looking at me like, there's no way I would ever let a robot in my home. And you go, until your neighbor is off, doing whatever they want because they're not washing dishes, folding clothes, mowing the lawns, they're not doing all that. They're humanoids doing it. And now what are you doing? Well, whatever you want. Whatever you want. That's what you're doing. So I think there's going to be a moment where it all clicks. Maybe 1 to 2 years away, but yeah, it's amazing that people aren't watching this and thinking, well, what am I going to do with that spare time and how do I get my hands on one?
Yeah. And like, if it's a danger thing, you're already on the road with autonomous robots that are next to you, like with the same technology. It's already around you. And unfortunately, if you're worried, like there is actually no escaping it. Like it's coming. And so I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. It's once people see the economic impact of it and what it means for their life, that's when the old like, oh yeah, I'm scared about the robot. If I can get an extra round of golf in on the weekend because I don't have to mow the lawn, all of a sudden the kid's safety around the robot is out the window.
It's true. It's like, I forget who it was, but someone spoke about no one cares what your product can do. Everyone cares what your product can do for them. And perhaps the sales pitch is around just a video of someone playing golf, going to the gym, sitting in a sauna, getting a massage. And then at the end, there's just a video of the figure robot putting the clothes in the washing machine. Like just the last 3 seconds.
Give Brett a call, say you're applying for the CMO role, you're diversifying here just in case he moves into the home as well. And that'd be like what Nike would do, right? Like Nike kind of pioneered some of that form of advertising where you're not selling the product, you're selling an experience or you're selling an emotion. I think that's smart.
Do you remember that guy, I think he was out of India, that had like 10 full-time work from home roles, and he'd like worked for like Anthropic and he worked for like Replit, and and then he got busted because he was working for everyone at once, all on full-time roles. I'm wondering like whether I need to rethink my whole strategy and just try and work remote for like NVIDIA figure marketing. Tesla. Just take on some remote roles, get on those share schemes, and that's the way forward. But no, look, I know it's part of the future. I think the other thing that we're talking about, the humanoid robot is going to replace dynamic labor. So that's labor that moves from site to site or around areas in dynamic environments, and it's going to be about, their spatial awareness, spatial intelligence and sensors and how to interact with humans. I think manufacturing, it's pretty clear that the future of manufacturing is 2,000 CNC machines in a Chinese factory with no humans on the floor whatsoever. And there's a post that we've both seen here with 2,000 CNC machines in Shenzhen, maybe a couple of humanoid robots walking around checking on them, but China's already there. And I'm not sure if everyone's ready for what this looks like for manufacturing.
Yeah. And then in America, you've got the ports union, banning any automation inside of ports, even things like electronic motors to open the doors. You still have to have a human opening the door. Like it's just chalk and cheese. And I'm not saying that that's the way that America is going. Like you said, Switzerland here, there's a lot of good innovation happening here too. But I don't think that you can be caught in the past here, and things like workers' unions, standing up for people's jobs, it have the wrong mentality. Like what the workers' unions should be doing is figuring out how can we take all of these workers inside the port or in factories, how do we integrate them into society? What type of role can they take on? What does the future of a job look like when you have this automation? And should we really be keeping people in roles that are dangerous and bad for the soul anyway, or trying to figure out what's best for them, even if it's moving into another industry or a different type of work. That's the mentality that we need to have as a society, not the block automation, block innovation, hold it back, because that is the one forcing function that you cannot stop. It's impossible.
Yeah, I think unions need to pivot. I think every union should get chief innovation officer, chief technology officer, and be pivoting into how can we retrain this pool of workers, and how can we get them, access to the tools and training, and potentially negotiate. Because what they do is they have this last remaining bit of power between now and the automated workforce, and go, hey, we're representing all of your workforce. You currently still need them. We want to negotiate the transfer into the next stage of the technology so that these people can stay employed, and we want you to pay for retraining and reskilling, and we're representing them to go forward with the technology. If you're going to sit there and try and ban automation, like, you're not representing the workforce. You're holding them back, telling them, the asteroid's not coming. Let's ban the asteroid. It's like the asteroid's coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think every union needs to rethink and pivot what the purpose of a union is, and if it's to represent the workforce, they need to represent their future interests, not defending something that's inevitable.
I think that can fit into Scotty's wise words, or whatever that segment that we had was.
So it'll be back. It might be at the bottom of the thing. Back. Mate, we're going to skip tool of the week this week, and I want to talk about product of the week. And apologies for the Elon-heavy episode, but he skipped that dinner and just flexed all week. And this is a big one because we're on board here at W, and Starlink, which I'm just a massive fan, one of SpaceX, but two of Starlink, and they have bought what I believe is called, is it EchoStar's AWS Spectrum license, which basically allows them to, they've bought a bunch of bandwidth of satellite services so they can target the direct to phone, direct to cellular network, so that you don't need the Telstras and the American big telephone players. You don't need them. They're just going straight through them now. So is that it?
Yeah. So without knowing heaps about it, I can just go like a high level on some of the technology. So when you had TV stations, one of the popular asset classes was the amount of spectrum that you could purchase for a TV channel. Like if you're Channel 9 or Channel 10, you purchase the spectrum, you have a license there. I don't know who owns it. Maybe it's the government. And yet ownership of that is really the barrier to entry. And that's why that they can charge a lot of money and make a lot of money through ads. You've got the same thing with phones, like the signal that is coming from the satellites into the receivers and then into your phone is obviously controlled, and it's managed and it's regulated. And I think up until this point, Starlink didn't have access to that. They had to license this off the providers that were already in there and who had this kind of oligopoly of ownership. And now they've gone into a commercial arrangement to buy someone's EchoStars. I don't even know who owns that. And they're purchasing it and they're going straight to the phone. So literally the only thing that was requiring us to use a Telstra or over in the US a Verizon or an AT&T is the fact that they own this. And even if they give you a crappy service, you have to pick one of them. Then you take an innovator like a Starlink that's already doing great things with the internet, go straight to your phone as well. That could be game over for the mobile carriers.
Yeah. And I mean, for instance, at work, last 2 months, we've been running our sites off these like remote dongles and things of Telstra. And it's just been like the signal's always bad. It crashes. We can't do anything. And we used Starlink for when we built up near Mount Buller and there was no signal whatsoever with Telstra. And we found like it just worked and it was in the middle of nowhere. And now we're finding at our jobs in Metro Melbourne that I just said, let's just start doing more Starlinks. And our Starlink sites have got like 5 times the internet speed of our Telstra sites. And you just think we spent $50 billion on NBN over like 10 years. And, you know, and like, what does this mean? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the Australian government banned it out of embarrassment. But the idea of me just having an iPhone connected to Starlink is pretty exciting. Knowing I can just go wherever I want in the world. I can be on a plane. I can do whatever I want, and I'm on.
Yeah. So you've just given me an idea. So we at BuildPass have to invest a lot of development time in offline mode for our apps, because people go into a basement, or like you said, that there's a site that doesn't have much reception. We need parts of our software to work offline, and it's a headache. We talked about Notion offline mode coming in. It took a massive company like that many years to manage to perfect Notion offline. And apparently I saw a post from a guy called Max Marchiotti on X, who runs a company called Superpower. He said that he spent like a whole flight on Notion offline mode. They just did a deep work session, connected up to the internet, lost everything. So even Notion haven't nailed offline mode. Really hard to do. And what you've just given me the idea is, every time we have a customer ask us for offline mode, or a new feature on offline mode, rather than investing the development resource in building that, I'll just send them a Starlink instead. And then they can run that on the construction site. That's probably going to be cheaper for me to send everyone a Starlink. So thank you for that business idea.
I was actually thinking last time we spoke, I don't know if it was public or private, got to be careful. But we're talking about like, how do you do some gamification of BuildPass, right? Like, how do you, you know, it's basically a bunch of dudes on site using tech. And I was thinking like, whoever's got like the most use, or the site and a company with the most sign-ons, like, cause in our business, like, sign-ons are, that's all I care about. Like, I'm like, where's my sign-ons, you know, by 8 a.m. And then at the end of the week, we get like, you know, sites, we want 200 sign-ons per site, which would easily be the best in the country for domestic builders. And, I was thinking, you know, how are we going to reward it? I thought, wouldn't it be interesting within BuildPass if you reward it? But what if, because sites run better off Starlink, what if you guys like had, you know, this company is the company of the week, we're going to send them out of Starlink to that specific site for this sort of gamification or reward mechanism of people using the app more and more?
Yeah, gamification is huge, and some companies do it really well. I think if you do it right, that is the single motivator. Even things like, we get feedback, people just want to see their dashboard go green. Like, they're like, there's this red thing, like I have an overdue insurance, like, get rid of it. I want to be green. I want to be clean on my dashboard. So even that is a form of gamification. And we had the idea that we should, every time you sign on, you have a random chance of getting a free sports bet multi $10 bet for the weekend.
So Aussie.
Can you imagine? Sign-ons would go through the roof.
Free bet with sports bet. Oh, sometimes you need to have a woman in the room when you got co-founder blokes who love a punt. You just need that girl from HR to come in and go, boys, seriously, sports bets?
Hey, come on. Tell me it wouldn't work.
It would work. It would work.
Yeah.
And we are in the age of, if we are in the age of, if it works, do it. Don't worry about what the government or, you know, what's PC. But, anyway, some ideas there for the next week's strategy session, at BuildPass. The haircut will get even shorter. Now, let's get into the age of agents. 2025 is the year of agents. You've done some really good, schooling of the listeners and myself on what an agent is compared to, you know, a basic LLM and all those kind of things. And a guy that we have to keep bringing up every week in the age of agents, Aaron Levy, who's the CEO of Box. I mean, his commentary on agents, I'm finding weekly, is excellent in terms of, you know, and he's pretty honest, just saying, this is what I'm now saying. And what he's sort of, saying now is that it's actually the most experienced people, the absolute A players that are leveraging agents the most. You know, people who, one, probably have the technical acumen to actually set something up, but two, to sort of just be run. And we've spoken about being an agentic person, you know, someone who can multitask and that kind of stuff is going to set you up well with agents. he's then being backed up by Alex Seymour saying Harvard study tracking 280,000 firms before AI. A lot of juniors. With a senior now, people are hiring more senior people and less junior people, and giving them the tools. And then backed up again is basically saying there's a bunch of studies now saying top end talent using tools tick, and not hiring as much bottom end talent or junior style roles.
Yeah. And we have talked before about young people and their opportunity. This is they're saying two different things here. So on one hand, you've got people in the workplace. If the senior people who know what they're doing start to use AI properly and start to adopt agents because they know what needs to be done, and now they can 5x their efficiency. Yeah, the things that they would have offloaded to a junior before, they can now get an AI agent to do. So from that sense, it's a really bad outlook for someone joining the economy. But the thing we've got to think about is how many of those senior people in the workforce are actually doing this. If you are that person, you should be. That's how you make your job not become redundant. But if you're a junior joining the workforce, one, it's now a non-negotiable that you have to know these tools. Otherwise, people are going to say, why would I hire you? So I think we referenced Mark Cuban saying one of the highest impact things that a junior person or a grad can do is train themselves in all these tools and go into an organization and upskill them and bring that skill set. Because I would hazard a guess that while Aaron is seeing this with his buddies in Silicon Valley and in, highfalutin tech companies, your average business has no idea what an agent even is. So I think there's still a huge amount of opportunity for these juniors, but maybe it's about picking and choosing the right industries to go into.
Yeah, and I think, we've got these lagging indicators, which are MIT and Harvard University studies. We had the MIT one a few weeks ago that said 95% of AI spend is getting no return, because I think predominantly most big firms are basically technologically retarded, and you've got people at the cutting edge who are saying the opposite to what, say, some research might be doing. And like I said, if you're in the San Fran bubble, that's a different thing. But I think the pairing here is the domain expertise, seriously experienced person paired with the tool expertise. And remember, these tools are only 12 months old. So for you to be a tool expert, you could be a gamer that's just, spend a bit of time on Lindy or spend a bit of time with ChatGPT or whatever, or an agent builder. And it's about pairing those people. So you're right. I believe in the younger workforce having actually an advantage here, being AI native, and having the last 2 years not be stuck in a 50-hour job. Like even you and I, we can't even upskill ourselves with these tools because we don't have the time. Like we'd love to just park our roles and go explore tools, but we just don't have the time. But I think people who are in uni at the moment, they've got loads of time. So if they're spending all their time just following the tools, becoming experts in them, and you go in and you pick your field you want to work in, and you say, well, pair me up with someone who's a freak, and I can 10 times them, or I can 5 times them. And I don't even need to know anything about construction. I don't need to know anything about accounting, but I just watch their workflow and make them better.
Well, that's what a lot of the YC startups at the moment. I read a stat that the ones that are focusing on verticals, like, going and focusing on construction or healthcare or office rentals, whatever it might be, a surprising amount, I can't remember the statistic, are coming from people who don't have any industry expertise there. Now, they still say like a good match is someone who's got the industry expertise and then someone who's more the techie person who can automate things. But they're seeing more and more of just two technical founders that have learned how to use AI, moving into a space they don't know, being really curious around the industry, surrounding themselves with advisors, getting AI advisors to teach them about the industry, and then solving a problem for a lagging industry. So again, we're rehashing a few concepts that we've talked about before, but I guess not everyone listens to all the episodes, so we can do that. But the concept of going into, you shouldn't feel like you need to be an expert in an industry to start a business there. You've got AI in your pocket. If you notice that it's been done inefficiently, you should attack that market and not feel afraid to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I've just written myself a note, like, I need to stop hiring young construction grads. Like, let someone else. It's like in football, don't draft the ruckman who's going to take 5 years to blossom. Like, get the ruckman as a trade, the big tall guy that's going to take 7 years to develop. You can go get one now. But I think with young talent, it's like, go get the tech savvy young talent. It doesn't matter what they've learned at uni, but if they're tech savvy, you can teach them domain expertise. But I don't think you want, a uni grad in your field that you've got to teach tech to. Like, that just seems like almost a dormant territory. But anyway, that's it's actually the perfect segue into the founder files, because seen a lot this week around what should founders and CEOs be spending their time on. And it's probably different for a startup compared to an established business. But let's talk first 5 years of a company, which you and I are in at the moment. And Ben Horowitz from Andreessen Horowitz, or A16Z, is basically saying that you shouldn't, as a founder, be hiring someone unless they're better than you at the task you're hiring them to do. And that can come down to, one, if they're not, you're probably going to micromanage them and spend your time doing it anyway. So that was one item. Then founder of Airbnb, Brian Chesky, has said basically the worst thing you can do is hire the wrong people. He's been huge on when we've mentioned a lot of things he said about hiring. And another thing that A16Z have come out with is saying, hiring isn't an afterthought. It is your company. The first few members are the most important. But in general, how much time do you spend on hiring? I've spent 50% of my last month, especially once we did a capital raise. And I assume, I'm interested with you how this splits between when you get some security around finances and then go to grow. But I've been at 50% spent on hiring over the last month.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on, and because I realize how when it goes wrong, you go back into the trenches, all of your grand plans go out the window when you have to sort out incorrect hiring. So now I'm just like, this is just so important. I agree with all the sentiment of all three people here, is that as a founder, your number one goal is, once you've achieved some kind of financial stability, is to make sure you put the right team together.
Yeah. Well, Scotty, this could be a whole episode in itself, and I will have to try and keep it short because I'm known to blabber about things. But the fact that you've spent 50% on that is, one, I'd say is a really good thing. I don't spend anywhere near that amount of time. I don't spend enough. So one of our most supportive investors, his mentality is, and what he always tells me is, 20% of your time as a founder should be spent on recruiting as an always on thing. So to your point around when should you be hiring, it really shouldn't be, do the raise, get some money. I've got some money, I can spend it now. It should be always on. The pipeline for new talent, you should have many pipelines and they should be always on. A lot of this is me talking about things that I don't do right now and I want to improve in. So, but you want to have many channels. A guy that I follow quite closely, because he's the CRO, the Chief Revenue Officer of a company called Owner.com. The reason I follow him is he has scaled that company in the States from 2 million in annual recurring revenue to 40 million in 3 years with an outbound sales motion and small contracts selling to SMB restaurant owners, possibly the hardest industry to sell into. Obviously, they have a really good product, but he has a very, very good system for selling. And that is the kind of metrics that we're looking to replicate. It's basically exactly the same as our business. We're a cheap product. We sell to an industry that's hard to sell into. And we do a lot of outbound sales. It's not just marketing. So where am I going with this? One of the things that he talks about is the fact that you need to have multiple different channels to be able to fill your pipeline with talent. And this is why I think that so many founders and so many leaders of businesses are out there now been very chirpy on all the channels and trying to create founder-led distribution because of not just to advertise the business, because it's also a talent funnel. We talk about our man, Brett Adcock from Figure. He mentioned that when he does a post about hiring, they get like 1,000 applicants at once, like just like that. And so all of a sudden he's got the best talent pipeline because of his distribution. So what I would say to you is 100% it's great that you're spending the time on the talent, but maybe because the distribution is not there, you're having to spend too much time finding the people and vetting. So I think the focus on recruitment is very real. It should be a product or a function within your business. It should be considered like, the sales funnel. Just like you have a funnel of customers, you should always have a funnel of talent coming into the business. And the kinds of things that you're putting on social media channels should be showing how great of a place it is to work and how amazing it is. And that becomes your pipeline. But I would say, where is the room for automation there, and trying to make sure that it's, gets closer to 20% of your time and not 50%, while getting the benefit of doing really great hiring.
Yeah, well, because the reason I was actually bringing it up is because it's pissing me off. Like, I wouldn't say it's enjoyable time. And the other thing is it's so expensive and time consuming. So yeah, I feel like, and I'm paying recruiters double-digit percentages of people's income. Now, when you think about that, we're going to spend 6 figures on recruiters this year, plus my time. And you think, well, if it is a pipeline, which I've never thought about it that way, what is there a recruitment CRM? Like, is there almost, a top of funnel, bottom of funnel CRM that's tracking this kind of stuff? And how do you automate that? And also, I do agree that I think out of the last 5 hires, 3 of them have said that they wanted to join after listening to the pod, or the pod gave them some sort of comfort. Could be, but it could be just trying to get a job. But in theory, it's you've got a platform to discuss a lot more about yourself personally in the business than you would in an interview. And it's there. Yeah. It's online. People can check it for themselves and go, that's something I align with, or that's something I don't. But how do you reckon, like, I know we're trying to workshop this in the middle of a live podcast, but what can we do to, yes, put the resources towards it, but make it more efficient, automate it? Is there a CRM style strategy thing you can think of here? Yeah,
we've actually signed up to a platform that is meant to help with this. I'm not going to name them yet because we've just gone into it, and I will either tool of the week or I'll innovation bin them in due course. So I'll report back on that. But what the premise is you put all the ads up. So you put the job descriptions up. Mm-hmm. It will automatically post them to multiple channels, LinkedIn and Indeed and all the channels. And then it's always on, in the sense that you can set up parameters to say people can get automatically rejected, or based on certain timeframes. You don't have to get back to them. They don't fit. It uses AI to analyze their resume of whether they would be a good fit against the parameters that you set up for the role. The other thing it will do, and this is all apparently, I haven't used it yet. The other thing it will do is we'll do a personality test for everyone. So one, if they're not serious, they'll just get weeded out by the fact they won't want to do the personality test. Probably takes like 15 minutes. Once it's done that, it'll match that against your company values and the job. And the thing that I thought was really interesting is you can actually do a personality test with all of your staff. And then from that, you can say, this is the kind of characteristics that we want to hire. Like, when people are showing this characteristic, like Jenny from marketing has, that's a good fit for this type of role. And this can automatically match that. The idea being moving more to this kind of always on, mentality for hiring, seeing the best talent, and then being able to interview them at the right time, and having a lot of that grunt work taken out for you. Now, what it doesn't solve, it doesn't solve the concept of if someone is happy in their job. And who posted this? I think it was Naval. Do you follow Naval on Twitter?
Love him. Yeah. Amazing.
So one of Naval's ex posts the other day was that amazing employee that you really want to work alongside, they're not applying for your job roles. they're at another great company and they're well supported. So how are you finding? So this platform that I'm talking about doesn't help that. But what I think does is the distribution thing and the brand value. So anytime that your company is in the news, anytime that you're doing a podcast like this and someone thinks that, hey, they're actually a half decent person and they're working on interesting things and they have good insights, they get to know you, that I think starts to help with that distribution side and getting people to actually apply for the role or surfacing themselves outside of having to use a recruiter to go headhunt people.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point about the always on thing. I'll definitely grab that tool off you offline, and agree with Naval's advice there. And I think we could almost wrap it up here for the show with a bit of Naval wisdom, which is much smarter than me. He also said, being a founder is two things: convincing people you have capital, and convincing capital you have the right people. So.
That is so good.
Isn't it good? He just wraps up all these complex thoughts into these crisp little sentences. So, let's wrap it up there, mate. And, yeah, I'll take that little tool from you, privately, and look forward to, tool of the week next week, or maybe we'll both report back on and we won't tell each other which way we're going, the bin or the tool of the week.
That sounds good, Scotty.
All right, mate. Well, also, next week I will be in Hawaii. So I'm going to sort of challenge your nooser vibes, and I'm getting out on the sand, maybe even with a little like hula dress on or something, and we'll present.
Well, that's going to be so fun. It's going to be a real stark difference. I'm going to be in the busy pace of New York next week, so maybe I'll try do mine at the top of the Empire State Building, and you can be with your little hula in Hawaii.
Yeah, you go for the Wall Street bull, and I'll be on the beach.
I better not ride it. I've shown that I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, your phone will fall out of your pocket.
All right. Thanks, mate. Good.
Yeah, thanks, mate. See you soon.
Yeah.